A secret decree. A royal shock. Princess Anne reveals Queen Elizabeth's hidden letter, and it changes everything. Kate Middleton's new role isn't just ceremonial, it's revolutionary. King Charles is left speechless. What did the Queen truly think of Kate? And how does this change the future of the monarchy? The answer stuns. Anne unveils the Queen's hidden decree. No one expected it. Not now, not this way. But Princess Anne, known for her stoic presence and unwavering loyalty, stepped into the spotlight with something that would change the future of the monarchy forever. A sealed, handwritten letter from Queen Elizabeth II. A letter that had been kept locked away since her passing in 2022. For 2 years, it remained untouched. Hidden deep within the walls of Windsor, it was more than paper and ink. It was the Queen's final vision. And now, it was time. Anne didn't reveal it at a press event or with dramatic fanfare. True to her character, she chose a private setting, a moment of dignity. She handed it to palace officials herself, calm, measured, knowing full well what was about to unfold. Those present described her actions as respectful, deliberate, and deeply moving. The contents? Unprecedented. This wasn't a ceremonial letter. It wasn't a thank you or a farewell. It was a declaration, a roadmap, and at its center, Kate Middleton. The delivery of this letter didn't just stir whispers in the corridors of Buckingham Palace. It marked a turning point. It shifted the weight of legacy. Suddenly, eyes turned toward the Princess of Wales, not just as a figurehead of grace, but as the royal family's next guiding force. What Queen Elizabeth had left behind wasn't just a message. It was a mission, and the ripple it created would soon become a tidal wave. A childhood bond forged in trust. Before the decree was ever written, before the crown passed hands, there was something rare and unshakable: trust. From the moment Kate entered royal life, Queen Elizabeth saw something in her. It wasn't just elegance or poise, it was substance. The kind that doesn't need to speak loudly to be heard. The kind that earns respect without asking. Behind palace walls, their bond grew quietly. It wasn't for cameras or protocol. It was personal. At Balmoral, they'd take walks. The Queen, rarely expressive, was seen smiling warmly at Kate. Genuinely. In 2019, during their joint visit to King's College London, something unusual happened. They laughed together, comfortably, like family, not colleagues. For a woman like Elizabeth, known for her control and formality, that warmth was telling. Kate didn't push boundaries. She didn't challenge tradition just to make a point. But she also didn't disappear behind titles and tiaras. She listened, she served, she grew. And Queen Elizabeth noticed. Each glance, each quiet exchange over tea, built something stronger than duty. It built faith. The Queen had once said, "Royalty isn't about rule, it's about responsibility." And in Kate, she saw someone ready to carry that. Now, with the decree revealed, that early bond takes on a new meaning. It wasn't just affection, it was preparation. What the decree actually says. For years, royal watchers speculated about what Queen Elizabeth truly thought of Kate Middleton. Now, they have their answer, in her own handwriting. Inside the sealed decree, the Queen didn't just express admiration for Kate. She laid out a vision, a bold one. She called her the heart of this family's future. Those 7 words now echo through every royal hall. The letter formally acknowledged Kate's evolving role. No longer just queen consort in waiting, but a leader in her own right. Elizabeth empowered her to lead efforts in early childhood, mental health, and Commonwealth unity, areas where Kate had already made her mark. But what truly stood out wasn't the titles or duties, it was the tone. This wasn't bureaucratic, it was emotional, personal. The Queen's words read like a mother's final message to her daughter: "Lead with courage, as I know you will." This decree didn't come from protocol. It came from the Queen's heart, and in doing so, it gave Kate a new kind of crown, one made of trust, not gold. Charles's quiet storm. When King Charles read the letter, something shifted. He didn't speak at first. Those in the room described him as stunned, silent. His eyes welled. This wasn't just a message from his late mother. It was a recognition of someone else's rising place in the monarchy, and he felt it. After a long pause, he said softly, "She saw what I now see." There was pride in his voice, but also uncertainty. Because in that moment, Charles realized what the Queen had set in motion. This wasn't just about honoring Kate, it was about transitioning influence. Charles had just spent a year battling cancer, fatigue, and growing public pressure. The crown felt heavier than ever, and now this decree shifted the spotlight to the woman standing quietly beside his son. It didn't threaten him, but it made him reflect on his own legacy, on the monarchy's future, on how much had changed. The Queen's message didn't sideline Charles. It reminded him that true leadership means lifting others. And as he stood in the shadow of that letter, he began to see Kate, not just as William's wife, but as his mother's chosen heir to grace. Kate's emotional response. When Kate finally read the letter, she wept. Not in front of cameras, not at a grand event, but in a quiet, private room inside Kensington Palace, with a trusted aide standing nearby. The emotions, so long kept beneath the surface, came pouring out. It wasn't a moment of weakness. It was one of release, of finally being seen. For years, Catherine had worn the titles, carried the responsibilities, and embodied the image of the perfect royal. But behind the polished appearances and unwavering smile was a woman constantly working, listening, learning, leading, without demanding applause, without seeking attention. And now, in her hands, she held the Queen's final words. A letter written in her own elegant script. A private, powerful message from the woman who shaped the modern monarchy. This wasn't just approval, it was affirmation. A signal that every late night, every school visit, every quietly pushed initiative had not gone unnoticed. That the Queen didn't just appreciate her, she believed in her. And Kate felt that belief deeply. "It's a calling," she whispered. That's how she described it. Not a promotion, not a duty, but something higher, something spiritual. This was no ceremonial gesture. It was legacy being passed from one woman to another. From a sovereign who carried the weight of the crown for 7 decades, to a future queen who had already proven she could carry hearts. Rather than issue a public statement or plan a high-profile appearance, Kate did what she always does. She went to work, quietly, purposefully. She returned to her team at the Royal Foundation Center for Early Childhood. She picked up where she left off, pushing forward with research, community outreach, and policy talks. She reviewed reports, met families, and held hands at children's hospitals. She didn't need to remind people of the Queen's words. She let her actions speak louder. Her poise didn't crack. Her schedule didn't slow. If anything, her resolve seemed to grow stronger, fueled by a sacred trust. For insiders, there was no doubt. This letter had changed her, not in title, but in presence. She walked taller, spoke with even more conviction. She knew she wasn't just continuing the Queen's legacy, she was becoming it. The letter didn't make her a queen, it revealed the queen she already was, and for the first time the world saw it too, not through a crown, but through the quiet strength of a woman called to serve. Public and political perfect timing. It's almost like the moment was waiting for her. As Kate Middleton made her quiet yet powerful return to the public eye, attending VE Day ceremonies, Commonwealth engagements, and major royal events, something about her presence felt different, stronger, more assured. It wasn't just the public noticing. Behind the scenes, palace aides were quietly whispering, "She's stepping into something bigger." And then came the decree. Revealed just as Kate's confidence was glowing brighter than ever. It landed not as a surprise, but as a confirmation of what many already sensed. Timing in royal life is rarely accidental. And this was impeccable. The Queen's words gave weight to Kate's rising stature. It turned speculation into certainty. Her appearances no longer seemed like mere duty. They felt strategic, empowered. Commentators quickly linked the letter's unveiling to Kate's recent surge in engagements. The world had seen her re-emerge from personal hardship with quiet elegance, not just attending events, but leading conversations, especially in early childhood development and mental health. It was as if the monarchy had orchestrated the moment to perfection. Show the people her strength, then reveal why it matters. And it worked. Social media lit up. Headlines shifted. Public approval soared. Suddenly, discussions about succession and future leadership had a new name at the center: Catherine, Princess of Wales. This wasn't just a coincidence. It was a turning point, one designed to modernize the monarchy while anchoring it in something deeply traditional, duty born from compassion. The power behind personal words. What made the decree truly unforgettable wasn't just what it said, it was how it said it. Queen Elizabeth II, a monarch known for formality, wrote her final instruction not with courtly detachment, but with intimate emotion. The handwriting, unfiltered and unmistakable, delivered more than orders. It delivered affection. Lines like "lead with courage" and "this is your time" carried maternal weight. These were not just royal expectations, they were personal blessings. Royal historians immediately noted the rarity of such a document. A private, handwritten letter with clear instructions for the future? Unheard of. Not since the days of Queen Victoria had such a deeply human decree shaped palace policy. Its tone was soft, but its meaning was loud. Queen Elizabeth knew she was bypassing usual channels. She wanted her words to stand alone, untouched by advisors or political filters. In doing so, she gave Kate something no title could: legacy by heart. This kind of royal storytelling, personal, passionate, powerful, doesn't just inform tradition, it redefines it. With each word, the Queen passed down not a rule book, but a torch. Anne's quiet endorsement. When Princess Anne handed over the decree, it wasn't just an act of duty. It was a signal. Anne, famously reserved and deeply loyal to the crown, doesn't often speak in symbolism, but this time she did. And people noticed. In recent weeks before the letter's reveal, Anne made comments in Turkey that now feel almost prophetic. She spoke of new voices with old values, a statement that, at the time, seemed vague. Now, it's clear, she was talking about Kate. Anne isn't just any royal. She is the Queen's most trusted daughter. A woman who lived by her mother's side, who understood her silences better than anyone. Her support carries quiet, unshakable weight. By choosing to deliver this message herself, Anne did more than honor her mother's wishes. She endorsed the future. She became a bridge from one reign to the next. There's a regal poetry to it. The eldest daughter of a historic queen, affirming the path for a future one, not by title, but by heart. Behind palace walls, Anne's actions are viewed as strategic. She didn't just drop off a letter. She helped set the royal compass. Now, as the monarchy evolves, Anne's quiet hand remains on the tiller, guiding, steadying, and pushing Kate gently toward her destiny. William's role and Camilla's silence. Inside the royal family, reactions to the decree were mixed, but none louder than William's support and Camilla's silence. When Kate read the Queen's words, the first person she turned to was her husband, and William's response was immediate. She saw it too. For him, the Queen's blessing wasn't just ceremonial, it was validation of everything he already believed about Kate. Her strength, her service, her future. William, ever protective of his wife, stepped into a quieter but crucial role, amplifier. Behind the scenes, he has begun aligning palace strategy around Kate's expanded influence. In public, his body language has shifted, more deferential, more supportive, more equal. But not everyone shared his reaction. Queen Camilla remained noticeably silent. No statements, no appearances with Kate. That silence spoke volumes. Whispers of tension grew louder. Some insiders described a frosty distance between the two women. Nothing overt, but unmistakable. Was Camilla rattled by Kate's rising star? Did the Queen's decree leave her feeling sidelined in a monarchy she helped stabilize after turbulent years? No one knows for sure. But in the quiet war of royal optics, silence can be louder than speech. And right now, Kate's rise is not only changing the public face of royalty, it's rearranging the balance of power within. A quiet power rebalance. Not with fireworks, not with drama, but with grace. That's how Kate Middleton began to change the royal hierarchy. Since the Queen's decree, she's taken meetings in private, briefings with advisors, discussions with youth leaders, policy talks once reserved for the monarch himself. The shift is subtle, but undeniable. Her early years initiative, once seen as a passion project, is now evolving into a national campaign. Advisors refer to her as a leading voice, not a consort in waiting. Every quiet move signals a soft recalibration of power. Not rebellion, not resistance. Just a gentle takeover led by kindness and clarity. Inside the palace, the atmosphere is changing. Where once all roads led to Charles, many now flow through Kate. Not out of hierarchy, but out of natural influence. It's not about titles, it's about trust. And right now, Kate holds more of it than almost anyone in the royal firm. This isn't the monarchy collapsing, it's evolving. And at the heart of that evolution is a woman the late Queen believed in, and whose time has finally come. Charles repositions the monarchy. At first it seemed like a quiet moment, a private letter, a shared glance, a few silent nods. But in the weeks that followed the decree's reveal, something more profound began to unfold. King Charles began to reposition the entire monarchy. It wasn't a dramatic shift. There were no sudden reshuffles or public declarations, but insiders noticed it immediately. Charles, once known for his meticulous control over royal operations, started stepping back. Not from the crown, but from the micromanagement that had long defined his leadership. For decades, Charles had fought to prepare for this role. He'd shaped causes, defended traditions, and defined a reign he believed would bridge the gap between monarchy and modern life. But now, standing in the shadow of his mother's final message, he saw something else: legacy over leadership. And he saw Kate. The Queen's words weren't just a gesture of confidence, they were a strategic directive. And Charles, pragmatic and emotionally intelligent, understood what few monarchs before him ever could. Succession is not a moment. It's a process. That's why palace aides say Charles quietly began shifting responsibilities. He encouraged Kate to take on more influence in the areas the Queen had emphasized: youth, mental health, and the Commonwealth. He even adjusted his own schedule, carving out more time for legacy planning, archival reviews, and private estate matters. To the outside world, it may have looked like nothing changed. But in reality, a delicate balancing act was underway. Charles wasn't giving up power, he was investing it in the next generation. He was laying a foundation that wasn't built on ego, but on continuity. Together, Charles and Kate now present something the monarchy has rarely offered in modern memory: a duality of vision. He, the seasoned elder statesman, she, the rising steward of tomorrow. And between them, William, the bridge between both eras. This wasn't just a realignment of roles, it was a rehearsal for the future. A monarchy preparing not only for the end of one reign, but for the seamless beginning of the next. Public reaction and royal momentum. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Once the news of the Queen's decree reached the public, royal watchers, commentators, and ordinary citizens across the globe responded with a kind of emotional clarity that can't be manufactured. They were ready for change, ready for Catherine. Social media erupted with posts like, "She was born for this," and "The Queen knew." The hashtag #QueenKate trended within hours. News sites saw a spike in traffic. Even typically skeptical voices in the media softened their tone. This wasn't spin, this was momentum. Kate's reputation, already solid, now soared. And it wasn't just about popularity, it was about trust. Charities praised her for years of quiet service. Diplomats noted her grace under pressure. Royal commentators pointed to her consistent message of stability and kindness. It became clear. This decree didn't just endorse Kate, it validated every choice she'd made. Her decision to prioritize motherhood, her commitment to mental health advocacy, her loyalty to the crown, even during personal challenges. All of it now formed a narrative that resonated deeply with the public. In contrast to the turbulence seen in other royal headlines, Kate's story felt grounded. It wasn't about drama, it was about dedication. Palace sources revealed that event attendance saw a noticeable uptick when she was involved. International organizations began requesting her presence. Schools implementing her early years foundation materials reported increased community engagement. Even global outlets, from Vogue to the New York Times, began writing not about what she wore, but what she was building. That's a seismic shift in royal coverage, one that mirrors exactly what Elizabeth envisioned: a modern monarchy with moral depth. Kate didn't ask for this spotlight, but when it came, she wore it like a second skin, not with vanity, but with vision. And that's why the public didn't just cheer. They leaned in. Because now, they weren't just watching history. They were rooting for it. A new era begins. It wasn't a coronation. There were no trumpets or grand fanfare. But the moment Queen Elizabeth's decree was read, a new era quietly began. For centuries, monarchies have been shaped by crowns, bloodlines, and war. But this shift came not from ceremony, but from something deeper, a handwritten message of trust. Kate Middleton is no longer just a royal by marriage. She is now, undeniably, the steward of the monarchy's future. Her story, built not on privilege but on persistence, has become the monarchy's most powerful narrative, one of resilience, warmth, and purposeful service. She doesn't chase headlines, she doesn't demand titles, but she embodies what the crown must now become: accessible, compassionate, enduring. Alongside her stands William, steady and devoted. Together, they represent a union not just of love, but of leadership. A modern monarchy with ancient roots. And then there is Charles, once heir, now king, who, in a rare moment of humility, made space for this evolution. By recognizing the Queen's decree not as a challenge, but as a guide, he preserved something precious: the monarchy's soul. The crown is no longer just worn, it is shared. As Kate steps forward, she does so not with fanfare, but with conviction. Her footsteps echo those of Queen Elizabeth, quiet, firm, and utterly transformational. A new generation is watching, and this time, the future wears a soft smile, a steady gaze, and a heart made of both tradition and change. The era has begun, and Kate Middleton is its true north. The monarchy is evolving, and at its heart now stands Kate Middleton. With the Queen's blessing and the world watching, her role is no longer in waiting, it's in motion. As Charles adjusts and Anne supports, one thing is clear: the crown's future has a new guardian, and her name is Catherine.